Welcome to Recovery Unleashed, the podcast where we dive deep into transformation, healing, high performance, and recovery. I'm your host, Hannah Dalby. I'm the founder of Recovery Jungle, Recovery Unleashed. I'm an integral alchemist, food coach, a recovery expert, and also a retired professional Muay Thai fighter and current jiu-jitsu lover. In each episode, we explore what it truly takes to break free from addiction, trauma, self-sabotage, and unlocking a life truly filled with energy, success, and peace. Through my very own story of addiction recovery and raw conversations with experts, coaches, athletes, healers, we uncover the tools and mindset shifts needed to master recovery in every area of your life. This isn't just about healing, this is about unleashing your full potential. If you're ready to reclaim your life, tune in, do the work, and let's rise together. Content warning. This episode includes open discussion of suicide and mental health struggles. If you or someone you know is in crisis or needs support, please reach out for help. In Australia, call Lifeline on 13 11 14. In the US, call the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on 988. In the UK, call the Samaritans on 11 6 123. You are not alone and support is available. Welcome back to Recovery Unleashed. Today we have the amazing Gavin Abeyratne, the creator of Integral Alchemy and the owner of our podcast studio, Wayne from Average Joe's. And we dive into some pretty deep stuff around mother wounds, father wounds, and a pretty special moment of Wayne going through the Integral Alchemy process. So big props to him. Absolutely want to watch this all the way to the end, with the full intention of talking about the sins of the mothers and the sins of the fathers, but this could go absolutely anywhere. So,
well, actually, let's start where we started. Wayne said something very interesting because this was a sort of an impromptu invitation for Wayne onto this, even though he's invited. He said, "I feel like I'm imposing on you guys," was what Wayne said. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Where do you feel that in your body?" Because there is nothing in this context where you're imposing. You're obviously invited. Hannah was happy to have you here, and it was, we wouldn't have said yes if we didn't want to. So, yeah, what made you feel like you were imposing in this conversation?
Oh, I guess. Look, for those that don't know, look, Hannah comes here, once a week or once every 2 weeks to use the studio, and so obviously we get everything prepped for us. So I was just sitting here hoping it's prepped for you guys. And so when obviously the invitation came on to jump on board, I'm like, oh, no, I don't. I'm here to prep for you guys. I don't want to be imposing on what you're doing. So it's an interesting thought, actually. I've never thought of that as a thought, like as a physical, like where do you feel it in your body? I actually don't know. Would it say you feel it in your heart because you feel bad? I don't know. Like where do I
quite
feel?
Possibly.
Okay.
This is your experience, right? So this is the whole point of Integral Alchemy. What we're doing is like, well, can you actually notice in your body where you feel that? Because you might feel that in your heart. It's not, can you logically decide where you're feeling that in your heart? It's, can you actually just like take a moment and go, well, is there something in my gut or is there something in my heart? Where is that actual feeling?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And if you're feeling that, but we're like, come on in. It's like, why is your internal feeling so different from the reality of what we're actually trying to create? So why haven't we been able to communicate to you that actually you're not imposing here at all? And so this is kind of it. We're in any situation, we're bringing in all of the all the stuff from other scenarios where other times, someone might have said, yeah, come on in. And then retrospectively been like, I don't know why Wayne even,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I didn't want the token invite, that's all. I didn't want the whole...
What does that mean?
Well, I didn't want you to say it out of just... Wayne's here, kind of awkward. He should have left by now, but he's sticking around. Should we just invite him on? And then I'm like, oh, yes, I suddenly stuck around on purpose kind of thing. I don't know. You have all these thoughts go through your head. Yeah. What are you thinking?
Have you experienced that before?
Of course you do. I think you always, to a degree, feel like, are you the hang-arounder for too long person? Or are you, that token guy that's like, oh, we should just, ask him to stay because he's here.
Okay, so we could really.
I'm on a therapy session right now. Hey, I need to lie back on one of those chairs.
This is where my genius is, my friend. It's not the microphone positioning, but leave it to the.
Well, so if this were a therapy session, what I would be doing is kind of pushing you towards when have you felt like a burden, maybe very earlier on in your life, and how that has through your life triggered a moment whenever anyone says something. And you're in a situation that feels similar to that. And you're like, is that happening again? Is that happening again? Is that happening again? When actually we're like, Wayne on the podcast? Hell yeah.
Well, actually, I can answer. Okay, now that you've put it that way, I can answer your question. I read a book about 18 months ago now. I don't know if you've either heard or read this book, but there's a book called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And it talks about coming from the angle of how you notice as a man where you have noticed traits within your life that you're always just trying to be nice and not offensive and you don't want to be treading on toes. And so you try to always not so much worry about being liked but not being hated. And so I think it comes from a lot, and this is what I discovered reading the book for myself, is that, look, I hate using this word. I really, really do, because it just, but you know, it seems to be rampant at the moment, childhood traumas. Oh, childhood trauma. But it did definitely make me reflect and go back to things and go, was there a childhood trauma that's created something in me psychologically or whatever this is, or neuroscience, whatever, that's made me become the kind of guy that's gone, why am I so worried about trying to be nice all the time? Why am I so, why can't I be the kind of person that goes, you know what, I actually don't give a rip what you think. I'm going to be me regardless. And so I guess for myself, especially with the book, but also just, that self journey where you look deep within and go, why? Like, where has that come from? What happened in my life that made me now react or respond a certain way to always be liked? And it does, like you get to 46. I mean, I'm 46 years old now, and I go, surely there should be a part of me that goes, well, I actually don't, and I'm becoming that person more and more by the day. I actually don't care what you think. But also to some degree, I do care what you think, because there's a lot about my life that I go, well, I'm wanting to live a certain way. I'm wanting to live to a certain level. I'm wanting to live to a certain, sense of morale where I go, there are certain things I believe that when I express what it is about my life that I believe, but then I act outside of that, well, you're going to judge me for it. Now, whether the judgment's a bad or a good thing, but at the end of the day, because say for me, I'm very forward in, people know that I'm a Christian person. I'm very forward in it. Like I don't back away from it. I'm not ashamed of it, anything like that. So when I say, oh, look, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, but then you do or say something that to someone else's perspective sits outside of that, you get judged for it. Oh, I thought you were a Christian. Yeah, I am. I didn't put my hand up and say I was perfect. Didn't put my hand up and say I don't make mistakes. I just said this is my belief. So I think a lot of the times we pull back or we draw back or we hold back from sharing or exposing or being vulnerable enough to be entirely 100% real to people because you're going to be judged regardless. And especially now, you used to be judged by the people you spoke to. Now, because our lives are online, you're judged by people that don't even know you. You know what I mean? Like people sit behind that computer screen or behind their phone and they're open to having an opinion about you without even knowing you. And then you fall into this cycle of them to try to defend yourself, which then makes you step out of actually being who you really are. And you're on this cycle and you go, why am I even on this journey?
You're in a drama triangle with someone online.
Yeah, actually, we spoke about that. I think, yeah, that's why you said it. As soon as you said drama triangle, I'm like, I've heard it before. Where was it? It was you. You said it.
Yeah, well, so it's really interesting, obviously with Integral Alchemy, when you do like personality tests, there's a trait called agreeableness, and it basically means how much you sort of care about other people and sort of deferential towards other people's needs. And it's an interesting one because, technically that sounds like a good thing. Like I'm always caring about other people. I'm really, into their needs. But what's funny is if you have that agreeableness and it's sort of like above, it's usually about 70 or 80 where you're so other focused, like most of the psychometric tests and the personality tests would like make it look as though that's always a good thing or that's a static trait, but it usually doesn't work like that. Usually what happens is someone is so agreeable, so other focused until they become resentful, then it pendulates really hard in the other direction where they're like, oh, actually I haven't really put my needs first, and then they'll go into burnout and all these kind of things, which then creates the drama triangle. Yeah. Whereas the person who's in the rescuer rescues, then becomes a victim. Then the person they used to rescue was like, hey, why aren't you rescuing me anymore? I hate you. There's something you're doing wrong. And then you end up in these triangles. And so in many ways, what you're kind of speaking to is this like, and you said it really, really vulnerably, and I appreciate that. It's like, I don't care what you think. Well, actually, I do care what you think, and that's kind of the mediation of like the individual needs meeting with social needs and finding some harmony and just being able to sort of express your truth with people who do accept you for who you are and tuning into what you need in those moments as well. You know what I mean? So it's like, but this is kind of cutting edge stuff because like there's almost a pathology in the interpretation of these traits where it's like being a pure giver is like, has to be seen as a good thing. And we don't necessarily, teach people that tuning into your own needs and sort of consciously asserting that is actually a good thing. And then you see this in the workplaces and people having burnout and all these sorts of issues when a lot of the time they kind of need to be a little bit more selfish a little bit earlier on so they don't find themselves in these really negative situations where they're just too far now out of their own and we see this in the healing professions a lot as well, right? So that's my mother came from that world as well, mental health nurse, and it's like a lot of people then give so much that they burn out, and then the professions can't even sustain people in it. So it was interesting because someone asked, well, what does integral alchemy do for someone? In many ways, it'll make them less agreeable, more disagreeable, so they can kind of assert their own needs in that moment, which creates a more sustainable situation for everyone overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does. 'Cause you said quite a few things. This is definitely a therapy session. You guys planned this. I swear to God, you planned
You could have said no if you had your agreement.
No, but I couldn't have. That's the thing. I couldn't have said no.
Well, see, but I could have, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why you need to trust my no, because if I would have been like, no, not today, mate, then that would have meant that. And I would not. And then see, because if you can trust my yes, that means you can trust my no. And I would never let you put yourself in a position where I would then resent you for imposing, right?
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Because I came from the legal profession where all the disagreeable people are, where we just love to argue and love to, and I've sort of worked my agreeableness up over the years where it's kind of in the middle. But that's one of the first things we try and give people is the sovereignty to trust their yes and trust their no. And we need to trust their yes and trust their no so that you can be fully embodied in that.
I mean, even from a leadership perspective, it's a pain in the ass when people are really agreeable because they're like people pleasing all over you all day and just saying, and then you can feel what there's something underneath that they want. They start resenting you. And then you're like, I just need you to tell me the truth. If you need 3 weeks off and you hate me, I need you to tell me because I can deal with that problem. I can't deal with this I'll just do everything for you all day and the secret hate underneath, and then you're burnt out and now you can't perform well. It's just better for everyone involved if truth is spoken all the time. If you're like, I absolutely do not want to be on your podcast, Hannah, I would have been like, sick, Wayne, have a good day.
Yeah.
I should have just told you, shouldn't I?
And what did I ask for? I said, okay, well, I'm happy to do this podcast, but because it's completely up in the air, what I need is I need to see it before it goes live in case I say something stupid, that I don't want to be live or what.
And because he said that, I'm like, cool. So when I do the next one next week, I need Sam to give that to me by Thursday. I'll ask for what I need so I can get another one out next week. No worries, Gav. I'll just get some more done because he's spoken that right now so I don't miss out on my week. It's not this later I give it to him on Wednesday and say, all right, you ready to go? And he's like, actually, you don't want this out. I have a meltdown.
It's because it's interesting because it's we talk about leadership. First of all, thanks for bringing up the childhood stuff because then you can see the compassion underneath that. And I like to reframe trauma. I had this conversation with someone, just in the jungle maybe yesterday. I was like, well, let's just change the word trauma to I learned. Right, just learned. I learned at some point in my life before I was really conscious of it that I couldn't just get everything I want all the time. And I mean, no shit, you're a dad. Of course, in childhood, you got a couple of kids. They can't be asking for what they want, getting what they want all the time. My little 4-year-old's asking for ice cream before breakfast, after dinner, and I'm going to say no. So there's an element of learning to not just get what you want all the time. But some of the demands that, society puts on us, even on the nuclear family, even if you've got stay-at-home mum and, stay-at-home wife or whatever it is, it's a lot. And even then, those little kids need to learn to suppress what they want in that moment. And so sometimes that can, you want to go full therapy?
No, look, I'm happy. I'm actually looking forward to hearing this whole, I actually plan on actually sitting in the room and just actually listening to the podcast today.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now I'm the, what am I? The pincushion, what do you call it?
You're just our friend that's having a chat, Wayne.
I'm in, all right. Yeah. Let's do it. Okay, let's go for it.
All right, well, so you got any brothers or sisters?
I've got one sister.
Oh, yeah, older or younger?
Older.
Okay, cool. All right, done. Session's done.
So when I said to you at the start, do you want to join on the podcast, what happened for you in that moment?
To be totally 100% honest, my instant reaction was, hell yeah, because this is where I know my strength is. I love to do this, hence the whole reason why I built the studio. This is where I know I flourish here behind, not so much behind a microphone, but with a voice. I've always loved doing it. So my initial, to be totally honest, was I'm on.
Yeah.
But then I felt the right answer to give was no. Because now, actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking at this out loud, the reason I said no was so that, this is going to sound so bad, I'm really exposing myself here. My initial thought was, yeah, of course I want to. Why wouldn't I? I want to. But if I was to be honest, I said no so that you would then reinforce asking again so that I would feel a little bit, I don't want to use the word validated, but a little bit more valued on, oh, no, we really want you. So then part of me goes, oh, do you really? Oh, okay, this is great.
Amazing.
Okay, session over. Now, what's happening here?
We're getting in it.
Okay.
Good stuff, mate.
Yeah, that's actually me being totally honest, because why wouldn't I jump behind a mic?
Yeah.
I love it.
What's important about being validated for your worth?
What's important about being validated? I don't know. I've not actually asked myself that question or thought of it. Is there a different way you can ask the question?
Okay, yeah.
What would you say what's important about me being validated?
All right, let me ask it a different way. What if we didn't validate you? How would that have felt?
I think I still would have been okay with it. I would have been like, well, of course. Why? Going back to the invite of jumping on, I would have gone, oh, of course. I mean, why would you invite me on? You guys are here to do your own thing, so it wouldn't have fazed me that much. There's more.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a good. This is a good example, right? So this is where most quote unquote therapy goes. Not that Integral Alchemy is therapy. Definitely not therapy. It's so this is the cognitive, right? And we could talk this out. Oh yeah, I could like it. I couldn't like it. You could kind of go there, right? So underneath that was the reason I said, well, where do you feel that sense of am I imposing? Because that's where the felt sense of it is, and this is where some of the really interesting stuff goes. So if you're comfortable going in that direction, that would be the next.
You comfortable with that?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Leaning back in the chair, letting your hands relax. And just noticing the sensation of your feet touching the floor. Noticing the sensation of your hands and where they're sitting. Notice the sensation of the air coming in and out of your nose. It's cool on the way in and warm on the way out. Taking a big deep breath. And another one. And one more holding at the top. Give a nice big audible sigh on the way out. Beautiful. Just becoming aware of any other sensations that are in your body right now. Checking in with your head, your heart, your stomach, solar plex. Is there any tension, contraction, warmth, tingling? What do you notice?
It's in the physical part of my body.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to sound really weird, but I feel as if my right leg is twisted too much, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I feel quite relaxed.
Beautiful. Okay, so just coming back to the moment when we asked you to join us on the podcast. What sensations do you notice in your body? What do you feel?
I feel a movement in my jaw, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And if that movement in your jaw could speak, what would it say?
In regards to answering your question?
And just what does that sensation want to say?
I don't know. I'm not really... Yeah, I can't explain it. I don't know.
And if we had said, no, you can't be on the podcast, just imagine that scenario. What do you notice in your body then?
In regards to like a physical feeling?
Yep.
I can't pinpoint it. I'm not too sure. I can't give a physical feeling, but like I said before, I guess the feeling within me that I got was I felt as if the answer should have, like within me, I guess the answer was, I feel like, oh, what a shame, because I feel as if I could have brought something if that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
Which sounds very arrogant, but it's just, again, like I said before, I feel this is my kind of, I like being here. So.
And what kind of feeling does that bring into your body? Do you notice any excitement in your heart or any feeling in your stomach around that?
It kind of brings a, it's going to sound so weird. It kind of brings a bit of a, like if you had said no, you're not, part of me goes, oh, well, screw you.
Yeah.
Have I touched on something there?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's really good. Where do you feel that?
Oh, this is going to sound so bad. I feel it in my hands, but in the shapes of fists, which sounds bad.
No, that's great.
It sounds like I want to punch somebody,
good.
but that's how it feels.
That's really good. Just take a breath into that sensation. Is there anything else that fist clenching wants to say? To me, to anyone else in existence, or just some words that might come to you?
Yeah, this is going to be, I'm going to say something that's going to,
Go.
okay. So I've been having a conversation with, am I supposed to be keeping my eyes closed here?
Yeah.
It feels as if that sparked that question about initially jumping on the podcast, and then if the answer had been no, then my inner feeling would have been like, well, screw you, because I feel like I'm supposed to be talking. That ties into the conversation I've been having with one of my best mates this last week about, is it time to talk? And what I mean by that is, we all know what's happened around the world lately with this whole Charlie Kirk thing. Someone who's been targeted for having a voice. And in building this whole podcast studio, this is going to sound really, I don't know how this is going to sound actually. I'm just going to say it though. I built this room to tie into what I do with the men stuff, with Average Joes and the whole movement that I've made. But I've built it for that, but I don't believe that's the reason why it was built, if that makes sense. It feels like its purpose was for something else.
Yeah.
And to be totally honest, it feels as if, and I said this to Mike this whole week, this whole stirring of, I feel I'm supposed to be talking, wrong word, I feel like my voice is supposed to be heard more and I'm not using it. Now, how that ties into, for me, it ties into my faith.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to me being a although I held the position of a pastor in our church for 14 years. I was never ordained, but I held the position of a pastor. For the last 14 years, I haven't been in the ministry whatsoever. But I felt this inkling, if that's the right word, I felt this impression lately that I'm supposed to be going back to that voice, not in regards to where I was positionally, but who I was as a person. And so I've been saying lately, like, it feels as if my voice is supposed to be being used for something other than what I'm using it for at the moment. So I'm feeling this urge when I feel shut down. Like if going back to that question, if you would ask me to jump on the podcast and you said, I actually no, don't. And me being, interesting, because I feel like I'm supposed to be talking. I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And as you're saying that, do you notice anything else in your body? Is there any tension anywhere?
Yeah, around the heart.
Yeah. Just take a breath into that feeling. Is there anything else that sensation wants to say?
I can't pinpoint it.
Okay, fine.
I feel like I'm letting myself down. And I feel like it's going to sound so arrogant. I feel like I'm letting people down. I feel like I am supposed to be doing something and I'm not. And I feel as if, I remember this lady saying to me a few years ago, I did a public speaking course about 2 years ago. And I remember her saying, shame on you if you die with your gift within you and it not being used.
Yeah.
And I've always felt that as if I was to use it, it would come across as a sense of arrogance. Like, who am I? Who am I to, I'll just stay in the corner. Even to the point where, funny story, I've been recently nominated for an award for, it's going to sound so weird, for like a local heroes award for what we do with men. And I'm voluntarily taking myself out of it because there's that part of me that goes, you guys do the awards, you guys do the trophies, I'm not interested, I'm just going to go do my own thing over here. Like, why would you want me? Like, why nominate me? Like, why? Yeah, I guess me verbally saying this now makes me, when I hear these words come out of my own mouth, it makes me feel as if I'm, what's the word? Not validating myself. Wow, it's the wrong word. I'm not good enough. Me hearing these words makes me say, I believe that I don't feel that I'm good enough.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. When was the last time you felt this?
Not good enough. I don't know if there was a time. I don't live not feeling good enough, if that's the right answer, but I don't know if I can go back to a time where I go, I don't know if it does make me go, look, again, I know I mentioned before about childhood traumas kind of thing. It takes me back to events of the younger years. Like, it does take me back to things in my younger years where I had felt as if I was always trying to impress, but I wasn't impressing.
Who were you trying to impress?
Do we need to go here on this podcast? Because this is...
If it's too much, that's fine. I can...
It's your choice. It just feels that the timing... Yeah, it's... I'll say a certain amount because I need to be careful because the timing of it is...
Of course.
But it's my mother. There were things that happened in my very younger years that involved her, specifically her, that then made me, or what I believe, when I look back now and I go into it, has definitely made me be the person that then goes, okay, she said something that, and I just said this to my wife 2 nights ago, there's a lot coming out at the moment about my relationship with my mother that I'm trying to just be careful on how I navigate what's said. But I would have been about, I'm thinking 9 or 10. That's the memory. It takes me roughly that age, about 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And my mother apparently, well, she went and saw doctors and stuff, but my mum became suicidal, right? And she sat down with my dad, my sister, and myself, and I remember exactly where we were in the kitchen. We had this fold-out lounge in the kitchen. We were sitting down in the lounge, and she said that she just got back from a doctor's appointment, and the doctor had done these certain tests on her, and the results came back as that she's like, you know, if 10 was extreme and 1 was down the low, Mum was sitting at about a 10, like a 10 or 11 kind of feel of like, why hasn't she killed herself already? And when you hear that as a 9-year-old kid, that's like, oh my God, like, why would my mum want to kill herself? So then the next day, might have been that night actually, but I don't know when, but I remember saying to her, like, confused, because in my head, the suicide rate back then wasn't as sad. Well, gladly isn't what it is now, because today just seems to be rampant. But back then, for someone to want to do it, you go, why would someone want to do that? I remember asking her, why would you want to do that? And her response was, I just want you to be a good boy. And that has implanted something into me, as if the way I received it was that she wanted to kill herself because I was a bad kid. And I remember it started something then where I go, God, so I always need to be the good person, the nice person. But look, more's come out since then where I have gone through my own journey where I've gone, hang on a minute, like this, I've now realised through age and through wisdom, through, you know, learning and education, that she's her own person, that lady. But yeah, it definitely put me on a trajectory of, I guess, going back again, trying, you know, always feeling like you need to be the nice person, the good person.
Okay. So if you were to step into that moment as the man and the father that you are now to that 9-year-old boy, what would you say to him?
I would say to him, your mother needs to take responsibility for who she is. And this is not your fault. And she has her own problems that she's dealt with, which I've come to learn now through years. But it's not your role to make someone happy.
Yeah.
And don't let it shape you. Don't let it push you into becoming someone that you're not going to be able to find your own identity in.
Yeah.
Because if you create your identity from this, you're going to be battling yourself for a very long time, which I did. And still, you know, I still get these battles pop up where I feel like I'm battling that younger kid that grew up to be who I was.
Yeah. And if that 9-year-old version could hear all of those words from you, what would he say?
I think he would trust me. I think he would believe me.
And is there anything he would like to say to your mother? Anything the 9-year-old version needs to say to your mother?
I think with what I know now, with what my mother went through, I think if he knew that at that age, he would say to her, I understand why you're acting and reacting this way, but it's also not your fault. You've become the person you are also because of decisions and stuff that you've done. That's what's happened to her. Which is, obviously, which what I've come to know now. So he would say to her, obviously get some help, but he would say to her, this is not your fault, but it is your responsibility.
Yeah.
That's what he would say.
And how does that feel in your heart right now?
Actually makes me feel proud, to be honest.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Do I open my eyes now? Is that what? Sitting here with my eyes closed.
Okay. So how are you feeling overall in your body?
I actually feel really good.
Yeah.
I'm being hand on heart honest. I'm actually feeling like really good.
What did you learn from that?
I'd never thought to go back and talk to a 9-year-old me.
What insights do you think you've gotten from that to move forward?
It's only something I have learnt recently, which is I know it's not my fault. I know that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
And if I were to ask you right now, if we said, Wayne, no, you can't be on the podcast, how does that feel?
It feels okay.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, Wayne would love you to be on the podcast. How's that feel?
So you bloody should have me on the podcast.
Yeah!
Is that the right answer? Because that's honestly how I feel.
Yeah.
The truth, mate. That's
Right. So it's never about the right or wrong answer. It's just the truth.
It's just the truth. Yeah.
So I'm going to self-invite myself every time now. I've actually claimed this seat.
I mean, I would love that. And sometimes I'm going to say, no, Wayne. This is not for you.
I'm not going to take it too well.
And that's okay, though.
No,
like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, now it's my turn. All right,
Okay.
close your eyes.
Well, we do train people.
Yeah.
Eventually. But, thanks for going there, mate. I appreciate you, the vulnerability and
Yeah, really good.
courage just to move into it. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I think, for anyone who, as you said, there's someone out there who's a hater, it's like there's a story in Wayne, there's truth in Wayne, there's a vulnerability, and it's like it's hard to sort of, this is human, there's a story, there's everything there, so it's good to bring all that up.
Yeah. I mean, it's this sins of we were even talking about on the way here, like, well, we've done the father wound so many times, and it's the sins of the mother, the stuff that we carry from our mother in some strange way. Your entire life and the way you've operated is from some moment with your mother, and it's super normal, and everyone has it in some way. And where, if I even look at my mother, who grew up in a criminal family that was told that she was a piece of shit her entire life, and was, had a pretty rough go, and has suppressed everything. Like, she will not speak about it. And so, although I've spent the last 10 years trying to undo that, I carry the anxiety. I go on a mountain hike and I have a panic attack if there's an edge, because I'm carrying that within my mother. the way that she didn't know how to attune to me because she didn't know how to attune to herself in any ways. Like, how can I receive any nurturing? I didn't know how to do it at all. And then we look at, the people that come in to do this work, and Gav says it all the time. It's like, well, every human being is born to a mother, is born to a woman, and they have these attunement needs from them. And you're supposed to be getting nurturing and attunement and all of this stuff from this woman. And if it's just not there, then all of these issues happen with other women, or being able to receive love and attunement from another woman, or what if a woman makes you cry? It comes up a lot.
If you want to get really meta about it, is to trust the feminine aspect and element within oneself.
There you go.
Yeah. Right, which is the ability to tune into one's own sensate emotion and feeling. So that's, if we want to look at it from that sort of depth psychology perspective, within every person there is a yin and a yang, to take it out of the gendered thing, and creating that integration creates a sense of more wholeness than otherwise. And I think, to flag now, this is where I get a little angry, because it's like, as you say, your mother has a story too. And Hannah's mother has a story too. And that's why I'm like, why in Australia, this incredibly abundant, rich country, why aren't we doing better for society as a whole? Because yes, you can absolutely, in that moment, create a sense of empowerment and agency for any individual in it. And that's totally true. And I think people should take as much agency and ownership of their situation as they can. But then at the collective level, we could be doing a better job. And I think we should be doing a better job. And that's kind of where, part of this comes to for me as well. Let's let the individuals take as much responsibility for their situations as well. And then let's also look collectively at what we can be doing better to create more supportive and nurturing environments, so it's not such an impossible task for mothers who then get, who then have to cop it, and then the sons cop it, and the daughters cop it, and the cycles kind of perpetuate. So there's a few elements to that, right? There's a few quadrants in the individual, the family, and this is where the integral comes in, the collective, and really taking it to those levels. So does that make sense as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because everyone needs to feel that individualized sense of, well, this is the need I had. And then within that, the broader context is like, well, do we really have any excuse as a society to be letting some of this stuff go on? Can we not be creating better environments for families, for people to be nurturing and raising more abundance, cost of living crisis, all this kind of stuff, right? Like, there is an element of just taking the heat off the average Joe or the average Josephina, you know what I mean? So they've got some slack in it, and really focusing on that too. So these are the kind of angles we're hitting it at.
Well, it's like, to your point, the traditionalism, and you're really passionate about that. And my partner talks about it in there is an element where men have protected and provided women for so long, and there is, how can a woman stand up and be like, well, I want all of these things and I want to be able to have my freedom and do all this stuff, but then I also want you to take care of me in all of the ways. And then the man has to not only protect and provide, but then also allow her to do all of this crazy stuff and hold all of that chaos. And there is some value in be a protector and a provider, and then let a woman be in her feminine energy. But when the society has moved out of that, and so it's like, not only are you expected to be a mother and a wife, but you're also expected to go and earn your own money. You're also expected, and the pressure is so much on everyone. There is just pressure. And so everyone's exploding and blaming each other.
Do you think, just in what you said just then, and you're obviously coming from a female's perspective, because you've just mentioned a few things that are obvious to where we are. We do want to protect, we do want to provide. They seem to be sewn into our DNA as men.
Yeah.
But from a female's perspective, you're saying, but now you're expected to go and earn. Who's created that expectation towards a female? Because I don't feel that, from a man's perspective, we'd love you to be on the receiving end of us protecting you. Good, you're the one we're keeping safe. Us as the providers, great, you're the one that's being provided for. So if you're saying there's that expectation for you to go and earn, is that society or is that men, do you think, that's given you that?
My personal experience is the sins of the father. My childhood was always win, go and earn money, go and do these things, go out in the world and be amazing. And that was his way of protecting me.
Yeah, right.
So in his eyes, to protect me was to make me so self-sufficient that I didn't need anyone at any time. So I could, because his growing up was, his father was so controlling of his mother, and his mother, my grandmother, is a brilliant woman. She's so intelligent and driven, and she could have done some incredible things with the world. Had a very long conversation with her a couple of weeks ago, and she's telling me these stories I had no idea about, where she spent her adult life flying to the US all the time to learn everything she could about trauma, because there was nothing in Australia to learn about trauma, and she had dissociative identity disorder. So she had all these troubles. No one would help her. She was suppressed by her husband. And so she went and did all these incredible things. I'm hearing these stories where she's like, people are like, oh, you can't do anything. And she just blows everyone out of the water. But she was suppressed so hard by her husband in like, no, you must just stay home and do nothing and you're not worth anything in this sort of way. So my father has watched that and gone, my daughter will have all the opportunities and she'll be able to have all of it. So it was his version of protecting me from what he saw, a suppression within her mother. So I've lived my life in going, I have, like, the only way I can have love and attention and be accepted and validated by my father is to go and earn and be number one in the world. And so I have this like deep tendency to need to be the best in the world at anything that I do. You know, I have arguments with Gavin sometimes because I'm like, what do you mean we're training other people? And I need to be like the best integral alchemist in the world no matter what. And my center needs to be the star of everything. So I have this innate thing within me to go and be the best in the world. And I've tried so many times. Like I was, you know, nearly fighting for world titles in my Muay Thai thing. I've been so great. And it's just this drive to be the absolute best. So my partner's looking at me and going, you can't stay at home. You'll go crazy. So I would love for him to just take care of me and provide all the things, but there's something in my system that would be like, oh, I can't just sit here. I have to create something and be the number one at something. So is that culture? Is that my father? Is that his culture? Is it the entire thing all, you know, put in together? Like there's so many components that have arrived me into this place.
Okay, that's really interesting, because now I'm not going to put you through our therapy session by any means, but obviously because we talk about, hence, you know, what we do with Average Joes. I mean, this is right in the line of where we go now, right? Because then I go, a couple of things that you said. You said, you know, you'd love him to protect and provide like for you, but there's also that drive within you to go do it. So for you to answer that way, you would love him to protect and provide for you. Would you say that's the feminine side of you speaking out?
Yeah.
But then the part of you that then goes, but I still want to have the drive to, is that the part of what you've experienced with your father? Yeah, so that's interesting in itself.
Well, so there's a lot in there, right? And I think a couple of things in there. For a lot of people, the need to have dual income is just because of housing prices.
Yep.
And I think, you know, it's elephant in the room is like something is a base fundamental need that people need, and it's also an asset that people want to increase in price. There's a bit of a tension there, right? It's like,
yep.
Do you want the price to go up? Do you want the price to go down? And it's kind of a dual income scenario there, you know, and that's, I think, for a lot of people's reality, it's economic, you know, like that's a big part of it. And then, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I went before, is there one culture, right? When we talk about culture and society, it's like, is there really one culture? Because this is what I mean, Hannah's experience of bringing her culture and what society is for her is her bubble and her worldview. And then we all bring our own culture to it. And then this is where we kind of get in a culture war, because everyone's bringing so much into the scenario that people might not even be aware of, right? And so I think as a starting point for good discussions around these things is to kind of know, well, how did we arrive at this point? What are the influences that made us believe what we believe? And then we can at least have a deeper understanding of what's going on for her, what's going on for you, what's going on for me, you know, in this whole scenario. And at least understand the logic and the reasoning why someone arrived at a conclusion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because from that lens, it's like, oh yeah, that kind of tracks in terms of that. And then you can kind of, now this is the hard part though. Well, how do you reconcile these two tensions, this contradiction? And not even to say that it's a feminine or masculine urge to create in the world. That could very well be a feminine urge. You know, I think those gendering it can be a little challenging and a little triggering potentially. So I'll just preface that one there. But how do you reconcile these two tensions of like this incredibly brilliant woman who can and should be creating out there in the world, and also wanting to do the receiving thing and playing with those polarities more consciously from a place of like, well, let's just choose maybe at this time of the day it's this or this, you know, and just really being aware of that and playing with it. And your amazing partner is really into this kind of work as well, so I can do that. Because there's been periods in my own relationship, I'll, you know, sit myself in the hot seat where it's like, Steph was, you know, we went to South Korea and she was a kindergarten teacher, funnily enough, and she was working, and I was like, I essentially got fired for being teaching the kids to be too standing up to authority. Well, not five, they're like, you're not a culture fit here. I used to draw, honestly, like diagrams on the wall of like all of them, apart, and then all of them standing on top of each other and how small I'd be compared to them. I was like, this is what happens if you stand up to authority. And, I'd have them walk around the class and all this stuff, which was, very active. Of course, they're probably...
Bad man.
What's that?
You bad man.
Well, exactly. And all sorts of stuff like that. Anyway, long story short, so we were there. She was on a contract for a few years, so she was the breadwinner or the kimchi winner, during that period of time. Kimchi winner. And I was just sitting at home for 6 months. I was like, I better figure out some stuff to do. But it's like we can move into those polarities. And then, of course, when a child was born, I was, working and she was sitting in the receiving and what have you. And then, God knows, 10 years from now, maybe I'll be phoning it in and she'll be working or vice versa, right? So it's like there's inherently a value judgment. We're just going to figure out what works for us at the various times in our lives, and me be able to drop in and her be able to drop in, and at least giving people the capacity to make those choices is important. Because I think that maybe reflects the reality of life. I mean, certainly it does for me, but I'll leave it back to you guys to, what do you think, Hannah?
Well, so there's something in this of surrender and control. Mm-hmm. And I hear a lot with men that they're working so hard and they've got the businesses and they're doing all the things and they're like, I just don't want to make another decision. Like, I'm tired. I'm so sick of it. Like,
you're hearing this from men, you're saying?
From men. So they're working extremely hard. They've got this is probably economic pressure as well. They've got to do so much to create the money, and then they've got to support the wife who's essentially, there's this whole other part of it where women are like, I don't want to do anything now. Like, feminine energy, and you just take care of me, without actually checking their own shadows and taking responsibility for themselves. So then there's this additional pressure. And there is something to be said for, I'm running a company, or I'm doing this hard job and I'm in control and being in my masculine all day. And there's at some point you need to actually have a balance and go into surrender and like allow feminine energy, allow going to get a massage or being taken care of or being told what to do. And so you see this, the men going to the really high level CEOs going to have submission, going to be submitted by dominatrixes. It's to allow them to just be in surrender. And so if it could be balanced, like just allow them to have some surrender so that they can lead and be in that other state from a place of power, not I have to do this. Because if you can go into surrender, sometimes you can be in your power stronger without being resentful and exhausted.
Because I guess from what I hear and from what I see it kind of a little bit, I do see it a little bit different. And I see it different in regards to when I hear men talk about backing away from decision making, I hear it more on men that have run businesses that now just want to step back into, say, an employee's role. Like, you know what, I'm sick, like, because being in the building industry, I hear it all the time, like, oh, mate, look, I'm just sick of, I'm just looking forward to just stepping out of the business and just being, just taking an office job or just jump back on the tools again. I hear a lot of the time, like, oh, I'm sick of running the business, I'm going to jump back on the tools. So I see men a lot of the time within a provider's role want to step back from leadership to just being, an employee. But within the family section, if I ever see a man speak that way or hear that way and desire to step back, I only see it when he's dealing with a wife or a partner that is ultra in her masculine, where she's operating fully in her masculine and the guy kind of gives up and goes, oh, I'm just done, mate, which is, I think, where we get this saying, oh, happy wife, happy life, just, mate, as long as the missus is happy. And so what we see is men now, because we had this we were talking about this last week on our podcast, it seems as if now the rule book on what men can and can't do, what men can and can't say, what men can and can't believe, it seems as if the rule book's been thrown up in the air and we're just waiting for it to land on a page to go, right, can you just tell us what we're allowed to do and what we're allowed to say anymore? So then what we're seeing within the family home is the rise of, and I can totally go back to what you're saying, Gav, like we see house prices the last 20, 30 years go to where they are, that the guy just can't go out and work now, come back and the mortgage is paid. Doesn't happen. You've now got mums and dads, husbands and wives going out to work to bring enough money to pay the mortgage. So then what does that do with the family unit at home? Well, the kids can't be raised now by the family because mum doesn't get home till 6, dad doesn't get home till whenever. So kids get put into childcare. So now you've got children being raised by a system that the mum and dad now are just trying to pay a mortgage, not even trying to be husband and wife anymore. They're just trying to bring enough money in to survive. So you've got a breaking of a family unit, but we can't go back to where we were simply just because of affordability. So we're either living outside of a structure where we should be, or we need to somehow come up with another way. In order to come up with another way, I think the dangers in what's happened is that we've now, and this is just going to, I know it's going to sound bad, but just hear what I'm trying to say. I think the dangers in what happened is we've now got the husband and wife going out to work. We just put the man in a position where he was at home the provider. And when you can dig, you don't even really need to dig deep, really. As a man, you dig a little bit and you realise that what's ingrained in our DNA, what I call the 3 Ps, protect, provide, and preside, meaning lead. Men have this natural desire to want to protect their family and their wives. They want to provide for them and they want to lead them. When I say lead, I don't mean boss. I think it's the most ridiculous word to use in a family structure, to be the boss. Is not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you're the leader, you take the hit first. If you're up the front and the arrows start coming, you're the guy that takes the arrow. So when I talk about lead, I'm talking about I desire to be that guy at the front, so that when life comes at its full force, don't worry, kids, don't worry, honey, I got this. So that's what I mean by lead, right? But I think one of the dangers that's happened is that because of society structure, because of financial pressure, all that kind of stuff, the wife or the lady, the woman, whatever you want to word it, politically correctness nowadays is ridiculous. Let's just call it the wife. Now the wife has stepped out of the family structure of that tradition and gone out to work. You've put her now in a position where she's now providing and she's also partly leading because she's now in her masculine, right? So now you've got this battle at home where when the guy comes home, when the husband comes home and the wife comes home, the husband's desiring to still be who he is, but all day the wife's operated in a role that traditionally belongs to the man. So now you come home and you've got this battle because the woman's been who, like you see this so much with FIFO. I've got a family member who travels for FIFO, 2 weeks away, 2 weeks back. He goes away and he's earning the money. When he comes back into a family unit where the wife's been the protector, the provider, and the leader at home for 2 weeks. So he comes home expecting to slot back into the role he has, which means that she needs to step back to the role she has, but she battles to, which is totally understandable to what, because for the last 2 weeks she's been everything. Now needs to step back. And you look at the divorce rate between FIFO employees, it's through the roof because you've got this family unit that doesn't know how to operate anymore. But I believe it comes down to there's so much societal, I wouldn't even say societal construct now that's been developed that we as men, not only do we struggle to find out who, like the battle of an identity on who we are, before we can even go back to any kind of creating a structure on what works within the home, we don't even know who we are anymore. And then what feeds that? You've got society feeding that very thing over here. One, we don't even know who we are anymore. But a lot of that is being fed by, we're teaching young kids now, and this is where I know it's going to be politically wrong, however you want to word it, but we're giving young kids now options to choose who they are gender-wise. If we're starting at this young, like we're seeing an influx now of men not knowing who they are, just in what society is constructed now. Let's just see the ripple effect now in the next 10 to 20 years of the ridiculousness of this decision-making over here. If we don't even know who we are now, who are we going to know in the next 20 years? Men, because I'm seeing it all the time, and I'm seeing it with, especially in the men's movement that we do. We're not mental health by any means. We're not suicide prevention by any means, but it seems as if you can't even run a men's thing anymore without that just slotting into it. So apparently we are, whatever we want to. But what I do see, and this literally just happened 2 weeks ago, one of my close friends who was 58 took his own life 2 weeks ago, 58 years old. Multi-millionaire, right? Worth a packet, took his own life. Why? Well, he got wealthy enough to retire early. The structure at home changed. And so you've now got this man who, one, has everything he needs. Society goes, oh, you need X amount, you know, to retire young, and he did that. So there's no longer a need to get up in the morning to go and get a paycheck. That's gone. So he no longer needs to go and get a sense of fulfillment or a sense of accomplishment or have a purpose. The structure at home began to change because of the dynamics of how society is. So you've got this man now going, well, why on earth am I even here? I'm not even needed anymore. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I can and can't say. I don't know where I fit into society anymore. There's actually no point of me even being here. And he got to that belief where he then literally believed it to a point where was like, you know what, there's no point of me being here, and took his own life. But I go right back and I go, this is why I believe, and I said to you guys just before we started recording, I didn't know the depths of what it meant to be a conservative, because it's not a word that we use a lot in Australia. Americans do. Obviously, because of past events that have happened the last few weeks with this whole Charlie Kirk thing and stuff, Democrats and Republicans and, conservative, like it's gone across news outlets everywhere, right? But it's made me realise that, okay, well, I researched the words and I've gone, actually, I am a conservative. With my limited understanding of what it means to be a conservative, I'm definitely in that thing. I believe in tradition, not all of it, but I'm 90% believe what it is. But there's a lot of things I believe about, and I go, one of the biggest dangers is men don't know who they are anymore. There's that lack of identity, but it feels as if we're not allowed to have one. I don't know if you sense that, Gav, but I see it and I go, the rule book's been thrown up in the air. We're waiting for it to land on a page to go, right, can someone just tell us what we're allowed to do, what we're allowed to be, what we're allowed to say, because we don't even know. Everything's politically correct. Everything's, feminist movements are rising to the top. So men are going, can someone just tell us?
Well, good plug for Integral Alchemy right here. And, well, for what it's worth, look, these are big questions, right? And I think we came on this podcast being like, well, maybe, I said, I don't have the answers on this stuff. I would like to speak it out. And what makes me feel good is we have some maps and models to at least navigate where we are in some of these polarities and some spectrums, because, been a consultant most of my life, and we all say a problem well defined is a problem half solved. And at least if we have some shared maps and models of what's going on, we have some consensus reality, we can look at it and be like, okay, here's where we're at. Here's a lot of the changes. How can we now, agreeing what the actual playing field is, make some decisions? And within Integral Alchemy, we have this sort of, the opposite of the drama triangle is in many ways, it's really three questions we kind of ask people as they're going through these transitions. What do I want to create in the future? What do I want to destroy? And what do I want to preserve? All right, create, destroy, preserve. And if you think about it, you look at, unfortunately we couldn't get to your friend in time. And it's like, well, obviously a part of that old life is gone in terms of like destroy that need for financial thing. The business is no longer required in the business. So that's already been destroyed. And then you mentioned conservative. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously there's been a lot of great things that, have gotten us to this place. Like, what do we want to conserve? Even if we do move forward and become progressive, like what values do we actually want to conserve? Do we want to conserve freedom of speech? Do we want to conserve these various things? And that's a question for people to have. I think those are really important things to kind of get clear on, because I think the crux of the situation is whether we want the change or not. It's kind of happening. And there's a lot of things being thrown into the mix, whether it's artificial intelligence or house prices or, all these kind of things. So at least having the maps and the models to ask those questions from a place of groundedness and knowing how we got to this point, I think is a really good starting place. You know what I mean? Because there's always going to be this tension between conservative and progressive. And like we even described before, a lot of the Americans then started describing themselves as neocon, which means new conservative, which is like, and even within Christianity or the Christian conservative, whatever you call it, like, where's the benchmark where you're conserving? Is it like, 1500 conservative, year 2000 conservative? Like there's an inflection point on that. And I think it's just good to be conscious about these things and to be, have the conversations, because that's the value that I'll stand with, that it's always good to be talking about these things, always good to be having the conversations,
Absolutely.
I actually think that rather like this, like, tell me what I need to do and tell me what I need to say, what I've noticed in Deegan actually is that the permission for him to have his truth has actually solved all of the problems. So as he is, I'm not judging in how he's able to speak his truth and have his truth and have his voice and it be actually what's within him. I want to follow him to the end of the earth. When it's like, what am I allowed to do? And I'm like that's pushover. And I don't want to, like, I'm not following that. If there is some truth and a man can find his truth, and maybe this is part of the problem, is that we've now done a few generations where the mothers were working and there wasn't attunement and there wasn't, you can be who you are and there's like, you got to be put in this box or whatever it is. Maybe there's something in that, in where we've landed, because now, and I'm not sure like how long has this been going on for, but as people find the truth that they wanted to speak, as men find the truth that they wanted to speak, and they're allowed to have their own wants, needs, desires, their truth to be spoken, their true purpose to be allowed to come out, because prior it's been judged, or there's been some trauma there, or there's been some reason of why they're not allowed to do that or not allowed to say that because of some crap that's gone on, because mum said no, because dad said no, because the ex-girlfriend said, you know, you're not allowed, whatever it is. When that truth is there and it's, I'm sovereign and I'm solid in this, and I will say, yes, I'm joining this podcast, or no, I don't want to do that, or actually, no, I'm not coming to that thing, or this is what I'm doing. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to go down this road, and I'm so solid in it. It's like, I'm following you. I'm 1,000% following you, because there's no underlying something inside of that that's a projection of something that's not the truth of the moment right now.
So do you think men nowadays are indecisive?
Yeah.
And do you think that gives a impression to women of like an untrustworthiness?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's really, because I agree with you. And I'm not going back to a blame to anything, but I think, because I see it too, and I've become it. I see myself do it a lot of times, where you're indecisive as a man for a few reasons. One, you don't want to offend, like, you know, going back to the start, you don't want to offend or upset.
Yeah.
Two, you want to make your wife or your partner happy. It's easy sometimes to not be the decision maker, although deep down you want to be. You ask any man, deep down, he actually wants to make the decision, right? Why? Because it's, again, remove the word boss. Boss has nothing to do with it, but men deep down want to make the decision because they feel like then they are operating in what they're designed to do.
Yeah.
If you take a V8 supercar out into a racetrack and you put your foot down, if that car could speak, it'd be going, oh, yeah, thanks very much. This is where I need to be. Thank you. But
I've done a V8 Holden on the track. It's good fun.
yeah, and you can hear the car talk to you. Oh, mate, this is unreal.
My dad was an engineer at Holden Ford in Geelong, and then Holden, so he had me at V8.
So we saw the light come over to Holden. Yeah, this
exactly.
is good.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
man. Now
But what you're saying, I think's right though, but we're indecisive because of, I don't want to use the word fear, but we're indecisive because of fear of a backlash.
Okay, so this is where it's now a woman's responsibility. So both things are true, because if a man is like, well, I'm going to make this decision and do this thing and operate in this way, and I like trust me here, and I'm doing this thing, and a woman's having a meltdown about it, that's actually not about that situation. It's about their previous situations, how dad treated them, how the ex-boyfriends treated them, and they're projecting all of that onto them. Of course, the man's too scared to make a decision and say their truth. So it's also a woman's responsibility to manage and deal with all of their own shit as well, so that when he comes to me and says, like, this is what's happening, and if I'm triggered in that and going, oh, you want to control me and all that, it's like, has nothing to do with that situation right there. So it's my responsibility to deal with that. So this works so long as everyone is taking responsibility
100%.
for their own bullshit that they're projecting out, and then there's trust because it's truth.
Short answer, everyone needs to do Integral Alchemy.
Absolutely.
But in all seriousness, you imagine if this entire country at least had the maps and models and do this, at least we could get some consensus. I'm pretty sure we'd figure something out.
Absolutely.
Because the crux of the situation is that what might be right for Hannah and Deegan is, you know, you want to get into classical liberalism is actually people can kind of live how they want if they don't harm other people. That's what classical liberalism actually is. It's a very Christian philosophy that every individual is basically, you know, and there's obviously tax. I'm not saying don't pay your taxes and go in that, you know, crazy kind of direction. But like, generally speaking, it's the harm principle is like you're kind of allowed to do whatever you want unless you harm other people. That's sort of the basis of a lot of the legal system. And because, then Hannah and Deegan can do whatever they want, you know. Or maybe they go this way one direction and another way that direction. Like they can kind of figure it out among themselves. But I really find that the maps and the models and conversations are just super liberating and super empowering. And generally when people start to see that, oh, yeah, these are actually challenges that everyone is having, and we can kind of contextualize it within what's going on within all these scenarios. Like, oh yeah, at least there's like some optimism around being able to find some solutions. You know?
Yeah,
because you can
absolutely.
talk about it. Because now it's just a technical challenge. Yeah.
It's a funny one. My wife and I are having this conversation again just this week, because obviously your audience wouldn't know that. So I run a plumbing business. When I say I run the plumbing business, my wife predominantly runs 95% of it. She's an amazing woman and an amazing manager of the company, right? My input is on the problem solver, because we operate a business that's in another state. So when you run a plumbing company that's entirely in a different state, the management we've had to come up with a way of how we can manage that, right? So all our techniques, our systems are different to other companies, right? But because of all the stuff I do with the men now, my wife runs most of the business. And we have this, I'm not going to call it an issue or a problem or whatever, but where we butt heads a lot within the business is when it comes down to decision making, right? And reason being, the decisions I make are all full of logic. I run numbers, I look at systems, and so my decisions are logic based.
Yeah.
When she gets involved in the decision making, it's all emotion. And I have this battle with her because I don't like to use the phrase, "Oh, that's great, but look, at the end of the day, I'm the boss of this company." I don't like to use it, nor do I use it, right? But to try and get her to understand, hey, listen, this is the reason why we're charging a variation for this. This is the reason why we're not charging a variation for this. Can we just do this? And so when she tries to bring emotion into it, and I go, no, we just need to stick with logic here. We're looking at it from entirely different things, but the decision still somehow feels like it's being made by two. When I try to say to her, it needs to be made with logic. It's a business. There's commercial decisions now comes from this. But I think this is one of the main reasons why when we're talking about before about trust, like, do you think women seem to be, or wives seem, I keep using the word women, is that
Fine.
People seem to don't like the word anyway.
One of those.
But what happens is
also, if you want to not trigger people in that one, you can just make it totally individualized. Instead of saying we as men, just say I, and instead of saying women, just say my wife.
Okay.
Then it's just about you and your missus, and that's, no one can sort of invalidate your various experience.
Yeah, no, look, we'll just blame her for everything, all right? So, no. For those that don't know, I've been married for 25 years, very, very happily married. We got married at 20, which people laugh at nowadays, but we've made it work.
Amazing.
It's not make it work. We have a flourishing marriage. I actually really enjoy my marriage, so just to make it clear. But going back to indecisiveness, when it comes to decision making, and I have this have this conversation. I won't say argument. Have this conversation with my wife. I try to make a decision. I butt heads with her about it. I try to bring her back to the reason why I'm making the decision. But for her, and that's why I mentioned to you beforehand, do you think it comes down to trust? For men to make a decision, we understand that there's a trust factor on your part to let us go with it. But I don't feel it needs to be understood, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the times when I make decisions in business, it doesn't need a 24-page printout with 97 boxes ticked to bring an understanding as to why I've made it. It just needs to be made, right? But the reason sometimes I get that from my wife is because she emotionally is involved with every decision making. So I try to say to her, but this is why when I'm leading this down this path, you just need to trust me, regardless of what got me to make this decision, regardless of the system in place, the people I've spoken to, whatever. For me to get to here, I just need this to happen. She wants every reason as to why I got to there. And I go, I don't have the 14 days time to sit down and explain it. You just need to trust me. So that's why I asked you before about trust.
Well, that's interesting because then technically you're holding the intuitive pole in that. And
Right, I was about to say the same thing because there is no logic in that. You've just made a decision because I do the same thing with my emotions, which is my intuition, and I'm the company owner and say, well, I'm just making this decision and I know it might sound ridiculous, but just trust me.
Yeah. So that's
it's intuitive. It's not logic. And he's bringing all the logic into it. And I'm like, take your logic somewhere else. Yeah. I'm following what I know to be true here. Something's coming through me. I'm just doing it. So that's actually intuitive rather than logic.
That's feminine energy.
Yeah.
Feminine energy to make a
decision without all the tick boxes ticked, and this is the path, and
really?
just to go, I'm just...
Okay, I want to just explain a bit better than how
Well, but see, that's not a bad thing, mate.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I wouldn't understand it to be this way.
Yeah, so really interesting, right? So even within... So there's a really interesting book called Rocket Fuel, and it's about the visionary and the integrator. This is basically just two polarities, right? And they've got a yin and a yang. And it can exist in one person where part of you is just like, screw it, I just want to do this thing. But Branson actually kind of feminine that way. Screw it, let's do it, right? The title of his book is just like, let's just go for it.
My Bible when I was growing up.
Right? And then the other part is like, oh, I should probably think this through. So within every person, there's the masculine, the feminine, the body and the mind, there's the thinking and the feeling. These are the kind of tests you'll do. And then you can sort of externalize that and have two people. Now, I'm going to hold the intuitive pole and the other person's going to hold the logical pole. And you'd be shocked how many very successful men, it's their wives who hold the... give me the logical reason, and the men hold the, I'm just going to go and trust my gut. So that's why people can get triggered when we call these things masculine and feminine, because you're not a woman clearly, and you're very masculine.
Did you just judge me? You didn't even ask my pronouns before we started.
Well, there you go.
Sorry, did I just ruin your podcast?
No, that's great. I love it.
See, even what do you call this? The work coffee order. I ordered an almond milk latte before this, and Hannah had a coconut. What did you have? A coconut.
Coconut mocha.
Coconut mocha. We said almond latte, coconut mocha. And Wayne's like, is that one order?
No, he
give me a
goes,
coffee,
what does
mate."
Gav want? And I'm like, no, there was 2 coffees in that. He's like, I thought it was just some really long woke coffee order.
Yeah, well, that's true. I didn't ask your pronouns. I apologize. I made the assumption that you're not a woman. Anyway.
I'm one of the 2, just in case you're not.
Anyway, that's fine. That's fine. And look, for what it's worth, right? For someone who's experiencing something where they're just quite confused about that situation, I'll have compassion for them in that, because it's like, who knows, what's going on for them. I'm not going to invalidate their, experience. But it is those energies of the masculine, the feminine, or even the yin and the yang, or the visionary and the integrator, and those 2 poles and those polarities are what you essentially can play with. And a fun thing to do, because I came through law, is like, if you want to really make it fun, it's like you ask your wife to argue your position and you to argue her position. Right, so just swap it. Just be like, all right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
Well, because then they have to see your side and they have to see your side. And I was like, well, you can't see both sides. Otherwise, they're going to be highly polarized, right? So this is the whole polarity thing, and why we have the yin and the yang as a thing, because it's a very quick way to neutralize it. You just be like, cool, argue the opposite. It's like, are you an open-minded person? Yeah, cool. We'll argue the exact opposite of what I just you make my argument and I'll make yours, and we'll see how the cookie crumbles, right? And then it gets you to see both sides. And then usually what happens is when you have this dialectic of 2 opposing forces crashing, this is what the magic is in a marriage, and why you're often attracted to someone who's very different than you, is the 2 forces crash and it can create a third thing, right? And the third thing is the synthesis, where you've got thesis, antithesis, hits, creates a synthesis, which is something bigger or better than what either of you could have done independently. And that might be the secret to your success of both the marriage and the business. And if you read that book, Visionary and Integrated, basically like, you're going to butt heads with this person constantly, but it's going to be producing something that's better than either of you could do independently.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah. So that's just bringing some maps and models, and just to sort of take it out of the whole, because you live in your own world as a business owner, you actually often have no idea what's going on for other people, and you're like, no, it's just a thing.
Yeah, right, exactly right.
Or relationships,
The other part of that, inside of like, if you feel like there's emotions inside of that, the emotions just want to be heard.
Yeah.
So as soon as the emotions are heard, it's like, all right, tell me all the emotional things. Get super angry about it. Just let all those emotions out, and then the emotions are complete, and then it's like, well, make whatever decision you want.
Yeah. Well, because Hormozy is the same, right? You got Alex Hormozy, like this big belly guy, huge beard, and he's just like, yeah, Layla runs the business, she's the operations person. I just come up with the ideas and look pretty, and so it's like, it's obviously not. There's a lot in that, mate. There's a lot in that,
Yeah. Good. Interesting. You're going to go back now, and I just texted her now, actually. This is what we're going to do when I get back.
What's that?
Just texting my wife now, saying this is what we're going to do when I get back in the office. Go through this.
Yeah.
And blah,
Well,
blah,
it's good to map it, right? Because and then there's the idea again is tension bad? Is like butting heads even a bad thing? I don't think it often is.
No, not at all.
Yeah, if you can do that well, you can create something that's sort of better than what would come out. My 2 cents.
So I hear this of like, I just want a peaceful life. I just want there to be no arguments and just a peaceful life. And it's like, well, you actually need the conflict to grow. Every single time you need the conflict to grow. Otherwise, you're just doing the same thing forever inside of conflict. If it's done well, if you bring Integral Alchemy into the process.
That's not a plug for what you do, Gav. You're all, mate.
Hey, man, I'm here I called it as an economic problem, solving my housing affordability crisis first.
Especially at the recovery jungle.
And if anyone is a plumber, just
I've gotten the wrong business. Clearly, I should have got. Anyway, whatever. That's all good. Sorry.
Well, yeah. So like you hit conflict, and there's either 2 things that can come out of it is like, all right, well, like you've got an idea, I've got an idea, let's bring it together. But if there is conflict and it's actually really charged, it's an opportunity for each person to find something like said 9-year-old version of you that had an issue, or something inside of your life to reconcile that and decondition yourself to that. And now you get to operate at a new level. You get to operate at a new level. You get to operate at a new level. It's an opportunity for growth every single time, which is the beautiful thing about 2 polarities coming together that are going to trigger the crap out of each other, because now you get an opportunity to look at all of those things.
I agree. Yeah, totally agree. Actually, it makes a lot of sense. I was actually looking. I agree so much that I'm looking at areas where that's happened, where I go.
You tell.
Oh, no, I'm just saying. I just looking back to times in the business where I go. That actually makes perfect sense.
Do you want to share an example?
I'd have to mention names, which
Gary and Bob.
Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Tom, Dick, and Harry. No, look, we'll leave that one. I think.
Okay.
We'll
Yeah,
leave
fair
that
enough.
one.
Yeah.
We'll do it when the recording's off. Press mute for a second, mate.
Yeah, well, I mean, for what it's worth, even with like the session you had, a lot of the insights will start to sort of unpack and roll out. You sleep on it and then you're like, oh, actually,
Yeah.
now I come to think of it, you know. So with Integral Alchemy, we usually do 3 sessions. The first one's a bit of rapport building, get to know someone, you know, get some context around the story and let people talk. The second one usually is what we do, a bit more of a deeper dive, like that kind of thing you just experienced. You went straight into it, mate, so good for you. We usually we usually wouldn't do that for what it's worth. We'd give people a lot of time and prep and just check what's happening after this, you know, make sure they're in a good space. And
Also know that you live around the corner from the recovery jungle. I can check in on you next week, make sure you're okay.
Yeah, and then the third session is like, okay, well, what came up from that and what is an interesting insight that you can now take and integrate moving forward? And what we also tend to find is that when you start to feel into and notice that the sensation and emotions you felt before, you know, we made that, obviously invited you to come on the podcast, you're more attuned to it in that moment. And so you respond differently in that moment. So you might have been like, yeah, I'd love to come on if that's cool with you guys. Yes, done, you know, versus us maybe thinking, oh, maybe he doesn't want to come on. Because Hannah told me beforehand, I was like, oh, maybe Wayne wants to come on the podcast. And Hannah said, oh, Wayne, he often really likes to prepare for these things as well. So it's like, was I forcing you into a situation you didn't, you know?
No, well, because I didn't have to run this podcast,
Yes.
this is great. I can just be comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is it, right? I have to trust your yes, and you have to, because otherwise technically I'm the persecutor in that one, where I'll just pull this poor guy into a thing that he wasn't prepared for and I'll put him on the spot, blah, 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 right? So we can get all these narratives going. But I've just learned to, you know, trust Wayne's yes and no, even though it's the first time I've ever met you.
Good. I like it.
Yeah.
Trust it.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, anything else?
So this really was a therapy session, wasn't it? You're asking me if there's anything else. Let me just go through my checklist of all my problems. Oh, yeah. Oh, there is a lot of other things I want to bring up.
I mean, I have been telling you to come in all the time, and so this is what actually was in my brain. Could be a projection. I don't know. I do this work a lot.
Well, you've actually answered the question right there. That's why I don't come in often.
Right?
Because when you do say to come in, I go,
Does she really mean it?
yeah. But when I say to you, come and use the room, I genuinely mean it.
Right?
But when you say it, I'm like, does she really
So
mean
I'm
it?
trusting your yes. You're not trusting my invitation.
You actually, that is 100% true.
Because I would very happily have you in there every day of the week. You've done so much for me. I'd love to help you. I do this work a lot. I'm like, there's some stuff here I can work with. And I absolutely, like, it's the level of giving that you've done for me, the kind of the man that you are. Your son's amazing. Like, this has been a beautiful, like, this is a dream of mine that, you know, came in my sleep 2 years ago, and I refused to do it unless I did it well. And then you appeared because of the amazing Ryan, and you know,
He's a funny guy.
yeah. So like when I say to you, because I don't give stuff often. I charge very high. Like my value is my value, and I again argue with Gavin about this all the time. It's like conversations. I don't discount my stuff. So when I say to you, please come as often as you like, I genuinely mean it.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's the getting down to the underwear and jumping in the freezing room is what I don't, you know, that's where I like.
We can do an acme on that.
Get past it, Wayne.
If you want to, right? At least you can see whether there's any, because you're allowed to have a no. It's allowed to be actually, I've done all the.
I actually enjoy going.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually said to someone the other day, like even the sauna, it goes for half an hour, right? Because we do the three, well, what you do for me is the half an hour sauna, then the leg compression thing. Actually, you know what? I don't know if I'm exposing something here. That leg compression thing, do you know why I might have said it to you. Actually, I might have said it to the lady to Deb. There's a real, it's going to sound so weird. There's a real sense of comfort wearing those leg things because it feels like you're being held, which not in it's going to sound like a very pussy thing to say, but it feels very comforting to be like,
Men
it grabs
need to
your
be held
legs
too.
and you go, oh, this actually feels, yeah, not like a hug. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying like secure or, I don't know, it's weird. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
But the sauna, the fact that I can turn my phone on silent for half an hour, leave it out of the room and sit down and just stop and think, oh, I love those moments because my brain is super active. That's what I was saying before. Like the reason I drink cappuccinos is because I like the first 3 or 4 minutes of just sitting there scooping the top off because it's a zone out of what's going on in the world. I can stop and get 4 minutes to me. And that's why,
So how often do you genuinely need that in your week?
Let's book in every Tuesday to start with. And then I'll see you Tuesdays, Thursdays. No, definitely would. yeah, look, can you come in? Yeah. But you know what? I'm still battling right now in my head. I'm going, but do you really mean yes? Isn't that weird?
Yeah, but at least you can notice it, and you can name it. Now you're like, and starts to ease, because what happens then, you test that assumption, right? This is what we do for people. All right, you had this assumption. Did she really mean yes or no? Then you go and she's like stoked that you're there, and then you go and you're like, oh, okay. You can start to trust the yes.
So you do the things and you don't die.
Yeah, because it's not like you necessarily get rid of it, and it's not like it's some huge trauma. You obviously learned at some point that if you had super entirely blunt, if you have a suicidal mother, you could feel like you're imposing on your mother by just your very existence or your needs, right? So you've felt into what's called a long element of that, right? And so there's maybe a little bit of a sensitivity to that, which you can notice, and then realize that actually that's not really true for you anymore. Then you can receive from the lovely Hannah, and everyone wins.
So if Gavin had said to you,
back to Melbourne now. I'm Gavin. I'm from Melbourne. I'm here to help.
If Gavin had asked you the same question, would have it felt different? If Gavin said, "Please come into my centre every day,"
no, it wouldn't have felt different.
Yeah, okay.
Because again, like it's okay. This is how real it is, right? We're all drinking coffee, right? Have you guys finished?
No.
Is it because we're doing the podcast, or is it because
Finished? Yeah.
I'm halfway.
I normally finish mine in about 5 minutes.
Do you know why I've got that there?
Something to do?
No, because I didn't even want another coffee this morning, but I felt the need to give to you guys. So I felt like, because I'm known for this if anyone hears this and they're going to come at me, they're going to really abuse me for this. Not abuse me, but take advantage of it. I'm always the payer. I like to pay for everything. I find it very hard to be the receiver.
Yeah.
So the reason I didn't even want another coffee. But
you wanted to do something nice.
I wanted to do something nice.
Even though you're the one that's delivering all of this.
Do something nice.
But and you know what? And what going back to the coffee order? The woke one, because I say to you, the reason that came about is because I said, whenever I ask everybody else what they want, it's always like some big long wokey order. It's because I'm always the one buying. People don't have the expectation, but it seems as if I've created that expectation on myself to be the one like, no. I appreciate that you don't really want to give me a free session, but allow me to be the one to buy coffee.
Yeah.
It's like I need to be. It's weird, eh? No, it's not weird. It's not weird to you guys.
Yeah.
It's like my yesterday and my day before yesterday. And,
yeah. I find it very hard to be the receiver.
Mate, absolutely.
Very hard.
Yeah, a lot of us do, and a lot of women do, a lot of men do, and this is going back to the whole thing, paying for the sins of the fathers and the mothers. It's like, why does it not feel safe to trust the masculine? Why does it not feel safe to trust the feminine? And now you're going into the sort of the generational stuff that people are bringing in, and it only needs to happen, once a generation where there was a serious abuse case, where the woman couldn't leave because of financial reasons. That's why she doesn't trust to be provided, right? Or the man can't ask what he wants because he's getting emotionally abused potentially, or whatever it is. And all of these things start to cluster in, and it's like, if they're real problems, you got to deal with the real problems, but it's like you don't want to have the phantom problems playing out in a reality where it's just not relevant in this interaction, and so just clearing that stuff and bringing yourself to neutrality, because there might be situations where you can't trust someone to receive. It's like there might be a truth in that where Hannah is actually someone that is untrustworthy, but when you can trust that discernment, then you have the answer to your question, which is like, well, how can you show up in the world in this day and age, and what can you actually ask for, and what can you trust, and you can build that solid foundation.
Very true.
All right, well, podcast wrap up.
Feels complete.
Feels complete.
Yeah, it's really good.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
and I gotta say, man, like, considering we just threw you in the hot seat, like, you went very deep, very fast, and very vulnerable. So, props to you for leading the way. Leading from the front in terms of just doing that. I think that's
mate,
that's
pleasure.
very commendable. And if it at least shows that other men can express their emotions, hell, it's a lot better than the alternative.
Yeah.
Well, it was easy because I made it all up, so I just just made it up as I went. So it's quite easy to do, right? No. Look, what I said was true. But I think it ties into what I said within all that, is that I'm a big believer in having a voice, and so if what I said can help someone else, well, that's a tick on my box to go, well.
Yeah.
If any listener hears this and goes, well, maybe I should, or that's made me think about.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's all well and good for a guy in with a man bun and all that to say, but for a bloke to come out and do that, it's even more
good.
Yeah.
It's kind of where it needs to.
Oh,
happen.
look, thank you guys. Yeah, really good.
Yeah. All right.
Appreciate it, mate.
Pleasure.
All right, I'm out of here.